I stood in my studio, brush poised over canvas, as another voicemail from my mother played through the speakers. Sophia, darling, you really must attend the opening. The Winston Museum is the biggest thing to happen to this family since your great-grandfather founded Winston Industries. Your brother has worked so hard to make this happen. I let her voice fade into background noise, focusing instead on the interplay of light and shadow in my latest piece. The irony wasn't lost on me. My family was about to open a $100 million art museum while still considering me the family disappointment for choosing to become an artist. Growing up as Sophia Winston meant carrying the weight of generations of industrial success on your shoulders. My great-grandfather built Winston Industries from nothing. My grandfather expanded it across continents, and my father transformed it into a global powerhouse. Then came my brother, Michael, the golden child who would shepherd the family legacy into the modern era. And me? I was the rebel who chose paintbrushes over profit margins. Art won't pay the bills, Sophia, my father would say, his voice heavy with disappointment. It's a hobby, not a career. The memory of that conversation still stung, even now, 10 years later. I had just graduated from high school, portfolio in hand, acceptance letter to the prestigious Art Institute clutched like a lifeline. I got a full scholarship, I had argued, trying to make them understand. They only accept 12 students a year. My mother had dabbed at her eyes with an embroidered handkerchief. Darling, think about your future, the family name. Michael is already at Harvard Business School, following the path laid out for him. I am thinking about my future, I'd insisted. My art is everything to me. My father's response was cold, final. Then pursue it without our support. We won't fund this. Rebellion. I left that night with nothing but my savings, art supplies, and an unshakable determination to prove them wrong. For years, I lived in a tiny apartment, working as a waitress during the day and painting through the night. My family's disappointment followed me like a shadow, manifesting in subtle digs at mandatory holiday gatherings. Still dabbling with your little paintings? Aunt Margaret would ask, voice dripping with false sympathy. You know, we're always hiring in the mailroom, Michael would offer, his generosity a thinly veiled insult. What they didn't know was that I had found my own path to success. Under the pseudonym Southwest Blake, my work had begun gaining recognition in the art world. It started small, a few pieces in local galleries, then larger shows in prestigious venues. Critics praised the depth of emotion, the innovative techniques, the raw honesty of my work. Meanwhile, my family remained blissfully unaware, too caught up in their own world of corporate acquisitions and profit margins to notice the rising star in the art world who shared their DNA. Even when my pieces started selling for 6 figures, they still saw me as the wayward daughter working in a coffee shop to support her hobby. The ultimate irony came 3 months ago. Michael, now CEO of Winston Industries, decided to establish the family's legacy in the art world. The Winston Museum would be a testament to their cultural sophistication, housing one of the most expensive private collections ever assembled. We've acquired some extraordinary pieces, Michael boasted at the last family dinner I attended, including several by that reclusive artist, Southwest Blake. The art world is obsessed with them. I nearly choked on my wine. Really? How interesting. Yes, though they're frightfully expensive, my mother added. Michael paid $8 million for just one painting. Can you imagine? I could imagine quite well, considering I was the one who had painted it. If only you had their talent, Sophia, my father sighed. Then your artistic pursuits might have amounted to something. I excused myself early that night, claiming a shift at the coffee shop. In reality, I had to finish a commission piece that would sell for more than Michael's yearly salary. The secret of Southwest Blake's identity had become my armor, protecting me from their judgment while allowing me to build my own empire in plain sight. Now, standing in my real studio, not the small space my family thought I rented, but a converted warehouse in the city's arts district, I surveyed my latest works. Tomorrow they would all be unveiled as the centerpiece of the Winston Museum's opening gala. Every single piece in the modern wing bore my signature, though my family had yet to make the connection. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the museum's curator, Isabella Torres. She was one of the few people who knew my true identity and had become both a close friend and a co-conspirator in tomorrow's revelation. Everything is ready, her text read. Your family won't know what hit them. I set down my brush, stepping back to examine the final piece I'd been working on. It would be my gift to the museum. A massive canvas depicting a Winston family portrait from my childhood, but with a twist. In my version, the figures were shadowed, indistinct except for a young girl holding a paintbrush, her face turned toward the light. My phone rang again. This time it was Michael. "Sophia, you were coming tomorrow, right? The whole family will be there. It would look bad if you weren't." I smiled, thinking of the surprise that awaited them. "Don't worry, brother dear. I wouldn't miss it for the world." After hanging up, I walked through my studio, passing paintings worth millions that would soon hang in my family's museum. Each one held a piece of my journey, the pain of rejection, the struggle to find my voice, the triumph of success on my own terms. A message from Isabella popped up on my phone. "Final walkthrough in an hour. Sure you're ready for this?" I texted back a single word: ready. Tomorrow, the carefully constructed facade would crumble. Tomorrow, my family would learn that the failed artist they had dismissed had become the very artist they had spent millions collecting. Tomorrow, every painting in their $100 million museum would reveal its true creator. But tonight, I had one final piece to complete, a self-portrait that would hang in the museum's entrance. In it, I stood in my studio, brush in hand, my signature bold and clear: Sophia Winston Blake. It was time for Southwest Blake to step into the light. The Winston Museum's grand opening sparkled with all the ostentation you'd expect from my family. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over marble floors, champagne flowed freely, and the city's elite mingled in designer evening wear, pretending to understand art. I arrived early, dressed in a simple black gown that would have made my mother wince. No designer labels, no family diamonds. Tonight was about my art, not the Winston name. "There you are." Isabella rushed over, her curator's badge gleaming. "The press is already here, and your family is doing preliminary interviews. Are you ready?" I watched as Michael held court near the entrance, explaining his vision for the museum to a group of journalists. Our parents stood nearby, beaming with pride. "I've been ready for 10 years, I replied. The modern wing, where most of my work hung, was still curtained off. It would be the highlight of the evening's unveiling, the mysterious Southwest Blake collection that had cost the Winston family a fortune. "Sophia," my mother's voice cut through the crowd. "Darling, you really could have made more of an effort. This is a black tie event." I smiled, remembering the 3 similar gowns in my closet that had each cost more than her entire outfit. "I came to support the family, Mother. Isn't that what matters?" "Yes, well," she glanced around nervously, "try not to mention your hobby tonight. We're telling everyone you work in art acquisition." "Don't worry," I assured her. "Everyone will know exactly what I do by the end of the evening." The crowd grew as 8 o'clock approached. Art critics, collectors, and social elite filled the space, all eager to see the mysterious Southwest Blake collection. I overheard snippets of conversation about the reclusive artist's identity, each theory more outlandish than the last. "Welcome, everyone." Michael's voice boomed through the speakers. "Tonight marks a historic moment for both the Winston family and the art world. The Winston Museum represents not just our family's dedication to cultural excellence, but our commitment to bringing the world's finest art to our city." Our father joined him on the small stage. For generations, the Winston name has stood for innovation and success in industry. Tonight, we expand that legacy into the realm of fine art. I felt Isabella squeeze my arm. "Ready for your cue." Michael continued his speech. "The centerpiece of our collection, and the piece I'm most proud to present, is the complete works of the acclaimed Southwest Blake. We've spent years acquiring these pieces, and tonight, we finally unveil them to the public." The curtains began to rise, revealing my work one piece at a time. The crowd gasped collectively as each painting came into view. I heard critics murmuring in appreciation, collectors discussing the millions they'd offered for similar pieces. "These works," Michael gestured grandly, "represent the largest private collection of Southwest Blake's art in the world. Their unique vision, their masterful technique, it's an honor to provide them a permanent home." And who better to tell us about these magnificent works? Isabella stepped forward, right on cue, than the artist herself. The room fell silent. Michael's smile froze. "Ladies and gentlemen," Isabella continued, "it is my great pleasure to introduce you to Southwest Blake, or as her family knows her, Sophia Winston." I walked onto the stage, taking the microphone from my brother's limp hand. The shock on my family's faces was worth every moment of the past 10 years. Thank you, Michael, for those kind words about my work, I said calmly. You're right, these pieces do tell a story. My story. The room erupted in whispers. Cameras flashed. My mother swayed slightly, steadied by my father's rigid grip. Each painting here represents a chapter in my journey, I continued, walking toward the largest piece, the reimagined family portrait. This one, for example, was inspired by the night my family told me art was a waste of time. It sold last year for $12 million. Michael found his voice. This is impossible. Sophia works in a coffee shop. Actually, Isabella cut in. Sophia hasn't worked in food service for 8 years. She's been rather busy becoming one of the most successful artists of her generation. The Southwest Blake collection is valued at over $200 million. My father stepped forward, his face a mask of confusion and dawning realization. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked. You were so convinced I was a failure that you never bothered to look closely at my success. Even when you were spending millions on my art, you couldn't see me. The evening devolved into chaos after that. Press members clamored for interviews, art critics revised their analyses of my work knowing the Winston influence, and collectors suddenly remembered my remarkable talent from my early coffee shop days. My mother, recovering her composure, attempted to take control. Darling, we always knew you had potential. This is wonderful for the family name. No, Mother, I cut her off. This isn't about the family name. Every piece in this collection was created by Sophia Winston Blake, not the Winston fortune. I built this on my own, despite your lack of faith. The anonymous donor, Michael whispered, realization dawning. The one who helped fund the museum, that was you. I nodded. Consider it my gift to the family, a reminder that success doesn't always wear a business suit. In the weeks that followed, the art world buzzed with the revelation of Southwest Blake's identity. The value of my work doubled overnight, though I refused to sell any new pieces to my family. They would have to earn the right to collect my art. Gradually, things changed. My father started asking genuine questions about my technique. My mother stopped introducing me as our daughter who works in art acquisition, and began proudly showing photos of my studio to her friends. Michael took longest to come around. But one day, he visited my studio, my real studio, unannounced. I was wrong, he said, studying my latest piece. We were all wrong about you. Yes, I agreed, not looking up from my canvas. You were. The thing is, he continued, I never really looked at art before. Not properly, but your pieces, they tell stories. Important ones. I finally turned to face him. Every artist tells stories, Michael. You just have to be willing to listen. He nodded slowly. I'm listening now. Today, the Winston Museum still stands as one of the city's premier art institutions. My work fills its modern wing, each piece a testament to the power of following your own path. The family portrait hangs in the entrance, reminding visitors that sometimes the black sheep of the family might just be creating a masterpiece. When young artists ask me about success, I tell them the truth. Talent matters, hard work matters, but believing in yourself when no one else does, that matters most of all. And sometimes the sweetest victory isn't proving others wrong, but proving yourself right. As for my family, they finally learned to see me, not as the failed artist or the rebellious daughter, but as Sophia Winston Blake, the artist who turned their $100 million museum into a priceless collection with a single signature. And that signature now stands boldly on every piece, a testament to the power of passion over expectations, of art over industry, of being true to yourself even when everyone else demands you change. After all, every great artist knows. Sometimes the most beautiful masterpieces come from the darkest doubts. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, heavy cream-colored paper, with gold embossing announcing the Morrison family's annual reunion. I stared at it, running my fingers over the raised letters while memories of past humiliations played through my mind like a worn-out film reel. My name is Olivia Morrison, but these days I go by Liv Carter in the business world. 10 years ago, I was the family's greatest disappointment, the girl who walked away from our family's banking empire to pursue foolish dreams of working in hospitality. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. My cousin Diana's name flashed on the screen. I already knew why she was calling. Olivia, her voice dripped with artificial sweetness. I assume you received the invitation. I did. Well, darling, I'm calling to let you know that perhaps it's best if you skip this year's reunion. The Starlight Grand is quite exclusive. The required attire alone. I glanced out my office window at the Manhattan skyline, suppressing a smile. The Starlight Grand, my flagship hotel, though the Morrison family didn't know that. They had no idea that LC Hotels, the fastest-growing luxury hotel chain in the country, belonged to their poor relation. Are you saying I can't afford it, Diana? Oh, don't be dramatic. It's just that, well, we have some very important guests coming. The governor, several CEOs. We can't have anyone feeling uncomfortable. By anyone, she meant herself. Heaven forbid her successful friends discover her cousin worked in customer service. What would they think? I see I kept my voice neutral. And who chose the venue? I did, of course. Pride filled her voice. Daddy says I have excellent taste. The Starlight Grand is the most prestigious hotel in Manhattan. I had to pull some serious strings to book it for our reunion. I bit back a laugh. Diana hadn't pulled any strings. Her request had come through our regular booking channels, and I personally approved it last week. In fact, I'd given them a special rate, about 30% higher than our standard fee. That must have been difficult, I said mildly. Well, not everyone has my connections. The owner, L.C. Carter, is notoriously private, but her staff was quite accommodating once they heard the Morrison name. Of course they were. I'd instructed them to be. How interesting. Anyway, Diana continued, I'm sure you understand. Perhaps next year, if your situation improves. Are you still working at that little hotel in Brooklyn? The little hotel she referred to was actually my test property, where I developed and refined the service innovations that had made LC Hotels famous in the hospitality industry. But the Morrisons had stopped paying attention to my career years ago. Something like that, I replied. After hanging up, I sat back in my leather chair, memories washing over me. 10 years ago, I'd been fresh out of Cornell's hotel administration program, eager to learn the business from the ground up. My family had been horrified. A hotel clerk. My father had roared. No daughter of mine will wear a name tag and carry luggage. But I'd stuck to my plan, working every position from housekeeper to front desk manager. I learned every aspect of the business, identifying problems and innovating solutions. Within 3 years, I'd opened my first property under the LC Hotels banner. Now, at 32, I own 17 luxury hotels across 3 continents. The Starlight Grand, my Manhattan flagship, had revolutionized the industry with its blend of classic luxury and cutting-edge technology. The same family that had once mocked my career choice now considered it the height of prestige to hold their reunion there. My phone buzzed, a text from my assistant, Marcus. The Morrison family reunion contract needs your final signature. Shall I bring it up? I smiled, typing back, no need. I have plans for this one. Opening my laptop, I began making arrangements. If my family wanted to ban me from the reunion for being too poor, they were in for quite a surprise. The Starlight Grand was about to host a revelation none of them would ever forget. Memories flooded back as I worked. Every snide comment, every dismissive glance, every family gathering where I was seated at the far end of the table, away from the successful relatives. Diana's wedding 3 years ago had been the worst. She'd seated me with the catering staff, telling everyone it was so I feel more comfortable with my own kind. The fact that I'd already owned 12 hotels by then didn't matter. They'd never bothered to look beyond their own assumptions. My sister Madeline had been the only one to stay in touch, though even she didn't know the full extent of my success. She called just as I was finalizing the arrangements. Liv, Diana called me. She said she had to uninvite you from the reunion. I'm so sorry. Don't be, I replied, signing the last document with a flourish. Actually, I have a favor to ask. Could you make sure everyone arrives exactly at 7 p.m.? It's important. Why? What are you planning? Let's just say Diana isn't the only one with connections at the Starlight Grand. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. I personally supervised every detail, from the menu to the floral arrangements. The Morrison family wanted luxury. I would give them a show they'd never forget. The night before the reunion, I stood in the hotel's grand lobby, watching the staff polish every surface to a mirror shine. The crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, and the marble floors gleamed like sheets of ice. Everything was perfect. Marcus appeared at my side, tablet in hand. All arrangements are in place. The new signage will be unveiled at exactly 7:15 p.m. tomorrow. Are you sure about this? I nodded, thinking of Diana's condescending phone call, of years of subtle and not so subtle humiliation. Absolutely sure. After all, it's not every day I get to welcome my family to my hotel. I smiled, imagining their faces when they realized the truth. Tomorrow would change everything, and I was ready. At precisely 6:45 p.m. on the evening of the reunion, I stood in my private office on the top floor of the Starlight Grand, watching the Morrison family arrive through the security feeds. They came in waves of designer clothes and expensive jewelry, each trying to outshine the other. Diana swept in wearing Valentino, directing staff like she owned the place. My father's Bentley pulled up to the valet station, followed by a stream of luxury cars carrying aunts, uncles, and cousins I hadn't seen in years. Everything's ready, Marcus said, adjusting his tablet. The staff knows their cues. Should I have security on standby? I shook my head. No need. The Morrisons care too much about appearances to make a scene in public. I smoothed down my custom-made suit, Armani, though they wouldn't expect me to know the difference. Let's give them time to settle in. Through the cameras, I watched my family members gather in the grand ballroom. Diana held court near the champagne fountain, loudly explaining how she'd pulled strings to secure the venue. My father stood with his business associates, probably discussing the latest banking merger. Even my distant cousins were there, all carefully positioned to show off their perceived status. At 7:10 p.m., right on schedule, the hotel manager approached Diana with the first hint that something was amiss. Ms. Morrison? I'm afraid there's been a slight issue with the reservation. Diana's face darkened. What kind of issue? I personally arrange everything with your corporate office. Yes, ma'am. It's just that the owner has some specific requests regarding tonight's event. The owner? Diana laughed dismissively. I seriously doubt Elsie Carter concerns herself with individual events. Now, if you'll excuse me. Actually, I said, stepping into the ballroom. Elsie Carter concerns herself with quite a lot of things. The silence that fell over the room was absolute. Every head turned toward me, the uninvited relative, the family embarrassment, standing in the doorway of Manhattan's most prestigious hotel wearing a suit that cost more than Diana's car. Olivia, my father's voice carried across the room. What are you doing here? Diana said. Diana said I couldn't afford to attend. I finished for him, walking slowly into the center of the room. She was concerned I might embarrass the family. Diana stepped forward, her face flushed with anger. This is a private event. I'll have security remove you. No, I cut her off, you won't. On cue, Marcus pressed a button on his tablet. The massive screen behind the stage lit up with the hotel's logo, and beneath it my full name. Olivia Morrison Carter, founder and CEO, LC Hotels International. The gasps were audible. Diana's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. That's not possible, she stammered. Would you like to see my business cards? I asked sweetly. Or perhaps the deed to the building. I have those right here. I patted the leather portfolio under my arm. My father pushed through the crowd, his face a mix of shock and something else. Was it pride? You own the Starlight Grand? And 16 other properties across 3 continents, I confirmed. Though this one is special. It's where I started my career, as a junior housekeeper, while all of you were laughing at my foolish career choice. The memory surfaced again. Diana mocking my name tag, my aunts whispering about wasted potential, my cousins excluding me from family photos because I didn't fit the image. All those years, I continued, my voice carrying in the stunned silence. While you were so busy looking down on me, you never bothered to look up, to see what I was building. The little hotel in Brooklyn Diana loves to joke about? It's my innovation lab, where we develop the systems that have revolutionized the luxury hotel industry. Marcus stepped forward, distributing folders to key family members. Inside you'll find the true story of LC Hotels, along with documentation of your rather interesting booking for tonight's event. Diana snatched her folder, her hands shaking as she opened it. Her eyes widened at the numbers. This can't. The rate you charge us is about 30% above our standard fee, I confirmed. Consider it a family discount, in reverse. My sister Madeline burst out laughing from somewhere in the crowd. Others joined in nervously, unsure whether they were allowed to find humor in the situation. "Why didn't you tell us?" my father demanded. "Would you have believed me?" I asked simply. 10 years ago, you told me no daughter of yours would ever work in a hotel." "Well, you were right about one thing. I don't work in a hotel. I own them." The screens around the ballroom came to life, showing images of my properties around the world. The sunset view from our Maldives resort, the snow-capped peaks surrounding our Swiss chateau, the glittering skyline visible from every room of our Dubai tower. "As for tonight's reunion," I continued, "your reservation hasn't been canceled. You're welcome to stay. In fact, I've arranged a special tour of the property. I think it's time you saw what a career in customer service really looks like." Diana stepped forward, her composure cracking. "Olivia, we never met." "Yes, you did." I cut her off gently. "You meant every snide comment, every exclusion, every moment of mockery. But that's okay, because while you were all so busy maintaining appearances, I was building something real." I turned to the assembled crowd, raising my voice slightly. "Welcome to the Starlight Grand. My staff will show you to your upgraded suites, though I'm afraid Diana's room had to be downgraded due to a last-minute VIP booking." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Diana's face flushed deep red as she realized she'd be staying in the same category of room she'd once mocked me for cleaning. As the family dispersed, guided by my impeccably trained staff, my father lingered behind. "I was wrong," he said quietly, "about everything." I studied him for a moment, seeing for the first time uncertainty in his eyes. "Yes, you were. But would you like to know the best part about owning 17 hotels, Dad?" He raised an eyebrow questioningly. "I have 17 different presidential suites where you can stay while you figure out how to make things right." A small smile cracked his serious expression. "Where did you learn to negotiate like that?" "Probably the same place I learned about hospitality, by starting at the bottom and working my way up. Something this family never understood." Later that night, after the tours were complete and the family had settled into their rooms, Diana's notably smaller than the others, I stood in my private penthouse looking out over the city. Marcus brought in the final numbers for the evening. "Your family seems subdued," he observed. I laughed. Amazing what a little perspective can do. "Did you see Diana's face when she realized her room doesn't have a city view? Are you going to tell them about the expansion? The new properties in Paris and Tokyo?" I smiled, thinking of the contracts sitting on my desk. The Starlight Grand was just the beginning. Let's save something for next year's reunion. After all, every good hotelier knows the importance of repeat business. As the city lights twinkled below, I thought about the long journey from that first day as a housekeeper to this moment. Success wasn't about proving them wrong, it was about proving myself right. And sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with a complimentary upgrade and a spectacular view. My phone buzzed with a text from Diana. "Can we talk tomorrow, please?" I typed back a simple response. "Of course. I believe your breakfast reservation is at 9 a.m. I own that restaurant too." Sometimes the greatest luxury isn't in the thread count of the sheets or the height of the ceiling. It's in the simple pleasure of finally being seen for who you really are. And as I looked out over my hotel empire, I knew that tomorrow would bring a new chapter in the Morrison family story. After all, every great hotel knows that the key to success isn't just in providing a room, it's in creating an experience they'll never forget. "You'll need to wear this." My sister Vanessa tossed a butler's uniform onto my bed, not even bothering to look me in the eye. "The resort staff is short-handed, and since you work in hospitality, you can make yourself useful." I picked up the pressed black uniform, fighting to keep my expression neutral. If she only knew that I wasn't just in hospitality, I owned a Crystal Cove resort, along with 12 other luxury properties around the world. "You want me to serve drinks at your wedding?" I kept my voice steady, though my hands wanted to shake. "Well, it's not like you can afford to be a proper guest, Michael." She smoothed her designer dress, checking her reflection in my bedroom mirror. "Besides, Daddy says it's good for you to understand your place. Some people are meant to serve, others to be served." I thought about the deed to the $300 million resort sitting in my office safe, about the staff of 200 who actually worked for me, about the fact that Vanessa had practically begged for a last-minute booking at my most exclusive property. But she didn't know any of that. None of them did. 10 years ago, I'd walked away from the family's investment firm to pursue my dreams in the hospitality industry. A disgrace, my father had called me. No son of mine will be a bellhop. What they never understood was that I hadn't wanted to be a bellhop. I'd wanted to revolutionize the entire luxury hotel industry. While they were busy looking down their noses at service workers, I was learning every aspect of the business, identifying problems, and creating solutions that would eventually make me a fortune. The wedding starts at 6, Vanessa continued, checking her phone. Be there by 4 to help set up. And Michael? She finally turned to look at me. Try not to embarrass me. These are very important people attending. I bit back a laugh. Those very important people were mostly my clients, CEOs, celebrities, and politicians who regularly stayed at my properties. They knew me as Michael Chen, the reclusive owner of Crystal Cove Resorts International. None of them had any idea I was related to the bride. I'll do my best, I said mildly. After she left, I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. The wedding contract was still open. Vanessa had nearly cried when she called begging for a venue after her original location fell through. The Crystal Cove Resort usually booked 2 years in advance, but I'd made an exception. Your family name carries weight, my events manager had told her, following my script perfectly. Mr. Chen has approved your booking personally. She preened at that, assuming it was our family's reputation in finance that had opened the doors. The irony was almost too perfect. My phone buzzed, a text from my assistant David. Everything's set for tomorrow. Staff briefed and sworn to secrecy. Are you sure about this? I thought about all the family gatherings where I'd been seated at the children's table well into my 30s, about the client meetings where my father had introduced me as our family's hospitality expert, with a smirk, about Vanessa's constant reminders that I was the family disappointment. Absolutely sure, I typed back. Make sure the uniforms are ready. The next morning, I arrived at the resort through the service entrance, carrying the butler's uniform Vanessa had given me. The staff, my staff, played along perfectly, treating me like a new hire, showing me where to store my belongings. Mr. Chen, my head of security, whispered as I passed. The cameras are all set. We'll capture every moment. I nodded slightly. I wanted a record of this day, not for revenge, but for remembrance. Sometimes the best lessons come wrapped in humble packages. The resort was in full wedding mode. Flowers worth more than most cars filled the grand ballroom, crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, and an army of staff moved with practiced precision to prepare for the evening's events. My father arrived around noon, barking orders at the staff like he owned the place. I watched from behind a service door as he complained about the champagne selection, the same vintage I knew he served at his own parties. Don't you have anything better? He demanded of the sommelier. This is a Crawford family wedding. Do you know who we are? The sommelier, who knew exactly who I was, kept his face professionally blank. I'll check with management, sir. My mother appeared next, fussing over every detail with the wedding planner. She passed me twice without a second glance, her own son, invisible in a butler's uniform. By 4 o'clock, guests began arriving. I recognized most of them, not just as family members, but as clients. The CEO of Atlantic Industries, who had just booked my Maldives property for his anniversary. The media mogul who held his annual board meetings at my Swiss resort. The tech billionaire who liked to joke that he'd buy Crystal Cove Resorts one day, not knowing he was talking to its owner. Michael. Vanessa's sharp voice cut through my observations. Stop standing around and make yourself useful. The guests need drinks. I picked up a silver tray of champagne flutes, moving smoothly through the crowd as I'd seen my staff do countless times. Each guest took a glass without really seeing me, exactly as my family had done for years. My cousin Peter, who'd recently made partner at his father's law firm, actually snapped his fingers at me. Hey you, we need more ice at table 3. I fought back a smile, remembering how he asked to handle the legal work for Crystal Cove Resorts last month. I had my corporate office send him a polite rejection. As the evening progressed, I played my role perfectly. I served drinks, cleared plates, and stayed in the background. But I was watching, listening, gathering every condescending comment and dismissive gesture. The wedding ceremony was about to begin, and soon, very soon, they would all learn what it truly meant to understand one's place. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from David. The signs are ready, on your signal. I texted back a single word. Wait. The best revelations, like the best service, are all about timing. The wedding ceremony had just ended, and the reception was in full swing. Vanessa looked radiant in her designer gown, floating through the crowd like she owned the place. The irony wasn't lost on me as I continued my role as server, invisible yet seeing everything. "I can't believe you managed to book the Crystal Cove Resort," one of her friends gushed. "It's impossible to get a last-minute reservation here." Vanessa preened. "Well, you know how it is. The Chen family has quite a reputation. When they heard our name, they practically begged us to hold the wedding here." I suppressed a smile as I refilled their champagne glasses. She had no idea how right she was about the Chen name, just the wrong Chen. "Michael." My father's sharp voice cut through my thoughts. "Stop dawdling and bring more wine to the head table. And try not to spill it this time." I hadn't spilled a drop all night, but that was beside the point. I collected a fresh bottle of the $1,000 wine I'd personally selected for the evening and made my way to the family table. "You know," my father was saying loudly to his business associates, "it's actually good that Michael ended up in service. Keeps him humble. Not everyone is cut out for real success." The men around him chuckled, swirling their expensive wine in crystal glasses that I had imported from Venice. My mother touched his arm gently. "At least he's working," she said, though her tone suggested this was the barest minimum of achievement, unlike Cousin Timothy, who still lives in his parents' basement. I checked my watch. Almost time. "Hey, butler," Peter called out, snapping his fingers again. "Tell the management we need better music. This playlist is amateur hour." I had personally curated the evening soundtrack, a mix of classical pieces performed by the London Symphony Orchestra, which I happened to sponsor. "Of course, sir," I replied smoothly. "I'll speak to the owner right away." "Good luck with that," Vanessa laughed. "Mr. Chen never shows his face. He's probably some old recluse who doesn't even know what's happening in his own hotel." That was my cue. I pulled out my phone and sent a single text to David. "Now." The crystal chandeliers dimmed slightly, and the massive screens around the ballroom flickered to life. The resort's logo appeared, followed by a message that made the room fall silent. "Welcome to Crystal Cove Resort." A message from the owner. My father frowned. "What's this?" The screens shifted to show a series of photographs. Me signing the resort's purchase agreement, cutting the ribbon at our Dubai location, accepting Luxury Hotelier of the Year award. In each image, I was clearly recognizable as Michael Chen, owner and CEO of Crystal Cove Resorts International. The silence in the room was deafening. I removed the butler's jacket, revealing a perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit underneath. "Actually," I said, raising my voice slightly, "Mr. Chen is quite aware of everything that happens in his hotels." Vanessa's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. My father's face had gone pale, while Peter seemed to be choking on his wine. That's not possible," Vanessa stammered. "Would you like to see the deed?" I asked pleasantly. "Or perhaps the resort's financial statements? I believe you'll find everything in order." "You own Crystal Cove Resorts?" My father's voice was barely a whisper. "All 13 properties," I confirmed. "Though this one is special. It's where I first learned the meaning of true hospitality, something this family never quite understood." The screens now showed images of my other properties, the snow-capped peaks surrounding our Switzerland location, the pristine beaches of our Maldives resort, the glittering lights of our Singapore tower. "While you were all busy mocking my career choice," I continued, "I was building an empire, one that's now worth considerably more than Crawford Investment Group." That hit home. My father's company had been our family's source of pride for generations. The fact that I had surpassed it while playing the role of humble hotelier was almost too much for him to process. "Why didn't you tell us?" my mother asked, her voice small. "Would you have believed me?" I countered. 10 years ago, you said I was throwing my life away, that no son of yours would ever work in service. While you were right about one thing, I don't work in service. I revolutionized it." David appeared at my side, tablet in hand. "Mr. Chen, the governor is on line 1. Shall I tell him you're busy with a family matter?" The room erupted in whispers. The same governor who had dismissed me as the help earlier was now asking for me by name. "Michael." Vanessa stepped forward, her wedding dress rustling. "I never meant, we didn't know." "No, you didn't," I agreed. "You were all too busy looking down to ever look up. But that's okay. Because while you were focused on appearances, I was building something real. I turned to address the gathered guests, many of whom were my actual clients. Please enjoy the rest of the evening. The reception has been extended by 2 hours, with my compliments. Though I'm afraid I'll have to stop serving drinks personally. A ripple of nervous laughter went through the crowd. My father stood up, straightening his tie as if preparing for a business negotiation. Son, perhaps we should discuss this privately. Of course, I nodded. My office is just upstairs. Though you might remember it, you said the penthouse suite was wastefully large when you checked in yesterday. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. My father had spent 20 minutes complaining about my own office, not knowing he was standing in the headquarters of a billion-dollar company. As the party resumed, now with a very different energy, I caught snippets of conversation. He owns all of Crystal Cove, the most exclusive resort chain in the world. And they made him serve drinks. Later that night, after the guests had gone and Vanessa had retreated to her honeymoon suite, which I'd upgraded despite everything, I stood in my office overlooking the ocean. David brought in the final event report. Your family seems subdued, he observed. Amazing what a little perspective can do, I replied, thinking of Peter's stammered apology and my mother's tearful attempt at reconciliation. Are you going to tell them about the new properties, the expansion into space tourism? I smiled, thinking of the contract sitting on my desk. Crystal Cove was about to become the first luxury hotel chain to offer zero-gravity accommodations. Let's save something for the next family gathering, I said. After all, every good hotelier knows the importance of repeat business. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. Can we talk tomorrow? I typed back. Of course. I believe you're booked for breakfast at the oceanfront restaurant. I own that too. Sometimes the greatest service you can provide is teaching others the true meaning of respect. And as I looked out over my resort, I knew that tomorrow would bring a new chapter in the Crawford family story. After all, success isn't about who you serve, it's about how you lead. And sometimes, the best way to lead is to let others discover their own humility. Looking at the butler's uniform still draped over a chair, I couldn't help but smile. It had been worth playing the servant for one last evening, if only to teach my family that true dignity isn't about the uniform you wear, but the person you choose to be. The sun was setting over the ocean, casting a golden glow across the resort, my resort. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, and perhaps even new beginnings with my family. But for now, I was content knowing that sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with impeccable style and a perfect view of the ocean. They say the deepest wounds come from family. Mine came on what should have been the proudest day of my life, my college graduation. I stood in our grand living room, still wearing my graduation gown, my summa cum laude honors cord glinting in the afternoon light. The house buzzed with guests, the air thick with the scent of expensive catering and even more expensive perfume. My father, Marcus Bennett, CEO of Bennett Industries, held court near the marble fireplace, champagne in hand. And of course, Isabella will be following in my footsteps, he announced, gesturing to my older sister, already lined up for the executive training program. Pride radiated from his voice as Isabella preened under the attention, her designer dress probably worth more than my entire year's tuition. I lingered near the edge of the crowd, clutching my economics degree with honors, earned through countless sleepless nights and 3 part-time jobs. Not that anyone had noticed. To them, I was just Sophia, the second daughter, the afterthought. What about Sophia? Someone asked. Another Bennett joining the company? The silence that followed felt like ice crawling down my spine. My father's face tightened, that familiar look of disappointment settling in. Sophia. He swirled his champagne, not meeting my highs. Well, she has different ideas about her future. Different. The word hung in the air like poison. What he meant was that I had refused to join Bennett Industries. Instead, I had accepted a junior position at a small tech startup, believing in their vision despite the lower starting salary. My mother, Victoria Bennett, stepped forward, her social mask firmly in place. We tried our best with Sophia, but she sighed dramatically. Sometimes our mistakes have minds of their own. The room went deadly quiet. Several guests shifted uncomfortably. Mother. Isabella gasped, though I caught the slight smirk playing at her lips. Mistake. The word echoed in my head, burning into my memory. Years of being overlooked, of having my achievements dismissed, crystallized in that single moment. My father didn't contradict her. He simply took another sip of champagne, his silence an endorsement. Even the guests, these supposed family friends, just awkwardly looked away. I stood there frozen as the weight of that word crushed against my chest. Mistake. The magna cum laude honors meant nothing. The scholarships I'd earned, the internships I'd secured on my own merit, all meaningless to them. My Aunt Patricia, always quick to pile on, added with Fox sympathy, "At least Isabella makes up for it. A true Bennett through and through." That was the moment something inside me hardened. I carefully set down my graduation cap, straightened my shoulders, and walked to the door. No one tried to stop me. No one called my name. "Sophia," my father finally spoke as I reached for the handle. "Don't be dramatic. Your mother didn't mean." "Yes, she did." I cut him off, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside. "But that's okay. Your mistake is leaving." I walked out of that house and never looked back. They had no idea that their mistake had already been quietly building something revolutionary. The startup that offered me a job. I wasn't just joining as an employee. I was becoming a founding partner, bringing with me a revolutionary algorithm I developed during college. My family thought I was throwing away my future by not joining Bennett Industries. They didn't know that I was about to disrupt their entire industry. That was 10 years ago. Now I sit in my penthouse office, watching the sun set over the city skyline. The word mistake no longer haunts me. Instead, it fuels me. My algorithm evolved into Mintex Solutions, a company that transformed how artificial intelligence is used in business. Last year, we went public with a valuation that made even tech giants take notice. The message notification on my phone pulls me from my thoughts. It's from my assistant. "Ms. Bennett, your father is in the lobby. He says it's urgent." I smile slightly, remembering the last time I saw him. The great Marcus Bennett would never come to my office unless something was terribly wrong. After 10 years of silence, of pretending I didn't exist, he's here. And I know exactly why. Bennett Industries is failing. Their outdated technology can't compete in today's market. Their stock has been plummeting for months. They need a miracle. They need me. The mistake has become their last hope. I press the intercom, send him up. It's time to show them exactly what their mistake has become. But first, let them wait. Just like I did, all those years ago, waiting for their approval that never came. I turn back to the window, watching my reflection in the glass. The scared graduate in a polyester gown is gone, replaced by a woman in a tailored suit, CEO of a billion-dollar company. The intercom buzzes again. "Your father is here." I straighten my jacket, a small smile playing at my lips. Give me 5 minutes. Let him sit there, in my waiting room, surrounded by magazine covers featuring my success. Let him realize that his mistake now has the power to either save or destroy everything he built. Sometimes the best revenge isn't serving cold justice, it's becoming exactly what they said you couldn't be. And I've become so much more than they ever imagined. I let exactly 7 minutes pass before opening my office door. My father sits in one of the leather chairs, his once immaculate suit slightly wrinkled, his confident posture replaced by something more desperate. The great Marcus Bennett looks old. "Sophia." He stands, trying to summon his old authority. But in this office, my office, that power doesn't exist. "Father." I stay behind my desk, gesturing to the chair. "Please sit." He does, and for a moment, neither of us speaks. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sparkles beneath us. My empire, built without his name or connections. "You look." He pauses, searching for words. "You've done well for yourself." I raise an eyebrow. "Is that why you're here? To comment on my appearance?" He shifts uncomfortably, his eyes darting to the awards lining my walls, the magazine covers featuring my face. The latest one reads, "Sophia Chen, the woman revolutionizing AI, Mintex's $12 billion innovation." Chen. I took my grandmother's maiden name after leaving. Another detail that must sting. "Bennett Industries," he finally says, his voice catching. "We're in trouble." "I know." I keep my voice neutral. "Your stock dropped 60% last quarter. Your technology is outdated. Major clients are leaving." I pull up a holographic display, his company's declining numbers floating between us. "You need a miracle." We need Mintech's AI integration system, he admits. Without it, we'll be bankrupt within months. I stand, walking to the window. Below, the Bennett Industries building stands in the shadow of my headquarters, a fitting metaphor. And Isabella, your perfect hair, can't she save the company? His silence speaks volumes. Isabella, for all her executive training, couldn't adapt to the changing market. Her arrogance, so like our parents, blinded her to the technological revolution I saw coming years ago. He clears his throat. She resigned last week, moved to Europe with her husband. Of course she did. Isabella always knew how to abandon a sinking ship. Mother must be devastated, I say, not bothering to hide my sarcasm. Her perfect daughter, leaving her to deal with her. What was the word? Oh yes, mistake. Sophia, about that day. Save it. I turn back to face him. I'm not interested in apologies 10 years too late. He stands abruptly, desperation cracking his facade. What do you want? Money? A position on the board? Name your price. I laugh, the sound sharp in the quiet office. Money? Father, look around. I have more money than Bennett Industries ever had. My company's market cap is 12 times yours. Or rather, what's left of yours. Then what? His voice rises. What do you want? Nothing. I sit back down, perfectly calm. I don't want anything from you, not anymore. We'll lose everything, he whispers. The company, the house, our reputation. Your mother, this will destroy her. Like you tried to destroy me. He flinches. I pull out a folder, sliding it across the desk. But unlike you, I'm not cruel. Inside is an offer. Mindtech will acquire Bennett Industries. We'll integrate your remaining viable technology, retain 60% of your workforce, and provide you and mother with a comfortable retirement package. His hands shake as he opens the folder. This is a hostile takeover. No, Father. This is mercy. I stand again, my heels clicking on the marble floor as I walk around the desk. You have 24 hours to accept. After that, I'll offer the same deal to your board directly. They'll accept it, with or without your approval. You do this to your own family? Family? I lean against my desk, looking down at him. You made it very clear I wasn't family. I was a mistake, remember? He stares at the papers, decades of pride warring with desperation. And if I sign? Then the Bennett name survives, albeit under the Mindtech umbrella. You and mother keep your social standing, your country club memberships, your comfortable lifestyle. I smile slightly, without the power you're so accustomed to. The sun has fully set now, the office illuminated by the city lights below. In their glow, I see the moment my father finally understands. His mistake didn't just succeed, she surpassed everything he ever built. You planned this, he says slowly. All of it. No, Father, you did. The moment you and mother decided I wasn't good enough, you set this in motion. I walk to the door, opening it. 24 hours. Choose wisely. He stands, clutching the folder like a lifeline. At the door, he pauses. Your mother, she wants to see you. No, my voice is firm. The only contact from now on will be through lawyers. That's the price of your mistakes, not mine. After he leaves, I pour myself a glass of whiskey, the same brand he used to celebrate Isabella's achievements with. The irony doesn't escape me. My phone buzzes, a message from my head of acquisitions. Bennett Industries board is already calling. They want to know if we'll negotiate separately. I smile, remembering all the family dinners where I sat silently, watching them praise Isabella while ignoring my existence. The graduation party where they called me their mistake. The years of doubt and pain their words carved into my soul. Tell them we'll talk tomorrow, I reply. After Marcus Bennett learns what it feels like to be powerless in his own company. Standing at my window, watching the city I now helped shape, I raise my glass in a silent toast. The mistake they tried to erase now controls their fate. The daughter they dismiss now decides their future. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's becoming so powerful that they're forced to admit it themselves. The message I've been waiting for flashes on my screen. Bennett Industries stock suspended from trading. Markets expect imminent takeover. I close my eyes, letting 10 years of vindication wash over me. Tomorrow the business world will be abuzz with the news. Mintech acquires Bennett Industries. They'll call it a strategic merger, a smart business move. But I know the truth. It's not just business. It's justice. And justice, like revenge, is best served by success. I pick up my phone, sending one final message to my father's number. The mistake says goodbye. Then I block his number, turn back to my empire, and finally completely let go of the girl who once desperately sought her family's approval. She doesn't exist anymore. In her place stands a woman who turned their greatest insult into her greatest triumph. And that's no mistake. Olivia's getting married. My mother's voice bubbled through the phone, dripping with the kind of enthusiasm she never wasted on me. She's marrying the CEO of Market Force Solutions. Can you believe it? My daughter marrying a CEO. I glanced at my computer screen at the acquisition papers I'd been reviewing before her call. Market Force Solutions, a mid-sized marketing firm that had been hemorrhaging money for the past year. Their CEO, James Warner, had been desperately seeking investors. That's wonderful, I said, keeping my voice neutral. If only they knew. The wedding will be at the Plaza Hotel, my mother continued. Though of course, we don't expect you to contribute to the costs. We know how tight money must be with your situation. My situation. That's what they called my choice to work at a small consulting firm instead of accepting the corporate job they'd lined up for me. Never mind that I built that small firm from nothing, carefully hiding my ownership behind layers of corporate structuring. I can manage, Mom. Oh, Sarah. Her sigh was heavy with disappointment. When are you going to get serious about your career? Look at Olivia, youngest senior VP at Anderson Corp, and now marrying a CEO. And you're still stuck in that dead-end job. I looked around my home office at the view of Central Park from my penthouse window and smiled slightly. Dead end indeed. The day of Olivia's engagement party arrived with all the subtlety of a Broadway production. The Morgan Hotel's ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and champagne flutes, each table setting probably worth more than what my family thought I made in a month. Sarah, Olivia's voice cut through the crowd. My sister approached in a designer dress that screamed new money, her diamond engagement ring catching alight. I didn't think you'd come, couldn't afford a new dress. I glanced down at my simple black dress, a custom piece that cost more than her ring. It's what I had. Well, she patted my arm condescendingly, at least you made an effort. Oh, let me introduce you to James. James Warner appeared at her side, his confident smile not quite hiding the worry lines around his eyes. I knew those worry lines intimately. I'd been watching his company's financial reports for months. Sarah, right? He extended his hand. Olivia's sister, the one who works at, what was it, honey? Some little consulting firm? Olivia waved dismissively. Nothing like Market Force. Speaking of which, James was just telling me about this amazing expansion plan. I took a sip of champagne, hiding my smile. There would be no expansion. Not under his leadership anyway. Sarah couldn't understand any of that business talk, Olivia continued. She's more of a small picture person. If she only knew that while she was planning her fairy tale wedding, I was planning the acquisition of her fiance's company. Phoenix Consulting Group, my company, had been watching Market Force Solutions for months. Their outdated methods and bloated management structure made them ripe for takeover. Actually, I said carefully, I'd love to hear about these expansion plans. James launched into his rehearsed speech about market penetration and synergistic opportunities. I nodded along, noting how he carefully avoided mentioning the company's plummeting stock price or the 3 failed product launches this year. Fascinating, I murmured, catching our mother's proud gaze fixed on Olivia. Isn't it? Olivia beamed. I'll be joining the board after the wedding. James says I have natural leadership abilities. Of course he did. He needed her family's connections, our family's connections, though he didn't realize those connections now largely flow through me, not her. The party continued, a parade of designer labels and practiced laughs. Every few minutes, someone would congratulate Olivia on her brilliant match, while casting pitying glances my way. It's not too late, my father cornered me by the bar. I could still make some calls, get you a proper position somewhere. I smiled, remembering the stack of resumes on my desk, VPs and directors from top firms begging to work for Phoenix Consulting. I'm happy where I am, Dad. He shook his head. You could have been like Olivia. Instead, you're wasting your potential at some tiny firm that nobody's heard of. Nobody's heard of? I nearly laughed. Phoenix Consulting Group was the silent giant of the industry, working behind the scenes to reshape companies like Market Force. We just prefer to stay out of the spotlight. As I left the party that night, Olivia caught my arm. Sarah, I've been thinking. After the wedding, maybe I could help you find a real job. Something at market force, perhaps? Entry level, of course. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The designer dress, the perfect makeup, the practiced smile. She had everything she thought she wanted. She had no idea that in less than a month, at her own wedding, her perfectly planned world would shatter. Thanks, Olivia, I said softly, but I think I'll stick with what I have. Driving home in my sensible car, a carefully chosen prop to maintain my cover, I couldn't help but smile. Let them think I was stuck in a dead-end job. Let them pity the sister who couldn't make it. In my office, I opened my laptop and sent a simple email to my board. Proceed with the market force acquisition. Timeline, 3 weeks. Target, wedding day. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's letting them believe they're right until the perfect moment to show them just how wrong they've been. And Olivia's wedding would be that perfect moment. I picked up my phone and texted my assistant, "Send me everything we have on James Warner's recent meetings, and make sure our lawyers are ready." The pieces were in place. Now all I had to do was wait for the big day, my sister's dream wedding, where she discovered that her unsuccessful sister was about to become her boss. The irony was almost poetic. The Plaza Hotel ballroom looked like a scene from a fairy tale. White roses cascaded from crystal vases, champagne flowed endlessly, and my sister, radiant in her designer wedding gown, basked in the attention of 500 guests. I sat quietly at my assigned table, far from the main party, of course, watching the celebration unfold. My phone buzzed silently. The final confirmation from my lawyers. The market force acquisition was complete. All that remained was the announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, James stood, tapping his champagne glass. I'd like to propose a toast to my beautiful bride, who from today will not only be my wife, but also a key part of Market Force's future. The crowd applauded. Olivia beamed. In fact, James continued, I have an announcement to make. As of Monday, Olivia will be joining Market Force as our new Chief Marketing Officer. More applause. My mother wiped away tears of joy. My father puffed up with pride. I checked my watch. 3 minutes until the markets closed. 3 minutes until everything changed. Olivia stood now, her wedding dress shimmering. Thank you all. I'm so excited to begin this new chapter, and I promise, under our leadership, Market Force will reach heights never before imagined. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. My phone buzzed again. The market had closed. The news would break any second. As if on cue, James's phone rang. He frowned, stepped away from the table. I watched his face change as he listened. Confusion, shock, disbelief. He ended the call, hands shaking. James? Olivia touched his arm. What's wrong? His voice cracked. Market Force. We've been acquired. Phoenix Consulting Group. They bought controlling interest. But that's impossible. The deal wasn't. What it was, I said, standing. The room fell silent as I walked toward their table. The paperwork was finalized 20 minutes ago. James stared at me. How do you know? I smiled, pulling a business card from my clutch. Not the simple one I usually carried, but my real card. The one that read, Sarah Mitchell, CEO and founder, Phoenix Consulting Group. No, Olivia whispered, her perfect makeup cracking as her eyes widened. This is a joke. You work at some tiny consulting firm. You're nothing. That tiny consulting firm? I kept my voice level. It was Phoenix. I built it from nothing while you were busy mocking my career choices. And now, well, I turned to James. I believe you'll find your resignation letter in your email. The board has already accepted it. The ballroom erupted in whispers. My mother dropped her champagne glass. My father stood frozen, his face ashen. You can't do this, Olivia shrieked. This is my wedding. My moment. Actually, I can. And that CMO position you were so excited about. The board has some concerns about nepotism. We'll be going in a different direction. James slumped in his chair, all pretense of power gone. The expansion plans, the strategies I told you about at the engagement party, were exactly what convinced me Market Force needed new management. I sipped my champagne, though I did appreciate the preview. Olivia grabbed my arm, her pristine bridal manicure digging into my skin. Why would you do this? I gently removed her hand. Remember last Christmas, when you told everyone not to expect much from my pathetic little job gift-wise? Well, consider this my wedding present, a lesson in humility. Sarah, my father finally found his voice. All this time, you were building an empire? I finished for him. Yes. While you were lamenting my wasted potential, I was transforming Phoenix into one of the most powerful consulting firms in the country. 40 million in revenue last year alone. My mother swayed slightly. But your apartment, your clothes, were choices. I didn't need to show off my success. I just needed to work quietly until the right moment. I straightened my simple dress. And what better moment than my dear sister's wedding? The ballroom had descended into chaos. Guests were frantically Googling Phoenix Consulting Group, discovering just who I really was. Olivia's perfect day had become a spectacle of a different kind. Security. Olivia screamed. Get her out. I laughed softly. The Plaza Hotel. I own it. Bought it last month, actually. Just for today. I turned to the gathered guests. Please enjoy the celebration. The champagne is excellent. I selected it myself. As I walked toward the exit, I heard my mother calling my name. I didn't turn around. 10 years of dismissal and mockery had ended in a single moment of perfect justice. Outside, my driver held the door to my Bentley. No more sensible car needed. Where to, Ms. Mitchell? The office, I said. We have a company to restructure. My phone buzzed with messages. Family members suddenly remembering my existence. Business reporters seeking comments. Olivia's increasingly hysterical texts. I turned it off. Let them talk. Let them scramble to understand how the sister they dismiss had become the most powerful person in the room. Let them realize that every time they'd mocked my dead-end job, they'd been digging their own professional graves. Monday morning, I sat in my corner office, watching Market Force employees file into their building across the street. They didn't know it yet, but half of senior management would be gone by lunch. My assistant entered. Your sister and parents are in the lobby. Again, they've been there since 7. Tell them the CEO is in meetings all day. I turned back to my window. And Madison, send them the new organizational chart. The one showing their daughter's position being eliminated. That's cold, she smiled. No, I corrected her. That's business. I picked up a framed photo from my desk. The last family Christmas, where they'd all laughed at my modest lifestyle. I dropped it in the trash. Sometimes success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about waiting for the perfect moment to show them just how right you've become. And as Market Force's stock price soared under Phoenix's management, as my sister's carefully planned future crumbled, as my parents finally realized what they'd dismissed all these years, I knew one thing for certain. The dead-end job they'd mocked had become their dead end in